Welcome back to the archives of the past. Tonight we are not looking at the kings on their thrones, nor the knights in their shining armor. We are looking at the soot, the sweat, and the silence that filled the spaces in between. We are stepping into the heavy boots of those who built history with their bare hands, enduring the heat and the hardship so that others might rise. Tonight we begin a long journey together, a journey designed to let your mind drift away from the stresses of your modern day and settle into the slow, rhythmic reality of a medieval blacksmith. We will explore the heat of the forge, the weight of the hammer, and the quiet struggles that history books often forget. But before we light the fire and let the shadows lengthen, I invite you to settle in. Make yourself comfortable. Close your eyes, or simply watch the embers glow. And as we prepare to leave the present behind, I would love to know where you are joining us from tonight. From which country or which city are you listening to this voice? Let us know in the comments below, and mark your place in this quiet community of history. Take a deep breath. Let the air fill your lungs, and as you exhale, imagine the modern world fading to gray. Now, let us turn back the clock. Let us walk into the dark, soot-stained world of the forge. It is not yet dawn. The world outside is draped in the heavy, suffocating silence of 4 a.m., a time when the rest of the village is deep in the embrace of sleep. But you are already awake. You are always awake before the sun. To be a blacksmith in the year 1350 is not the heroic, muscular fantasy often painted in stories. It is a life defined by a relentless, bone-deep exhaustion that never fully leaves your body. Imagine yourself lying on a pallet of straw, stuffed into rough linen that scratches against skin already raw from heat rash and minor burns. The air in your small living quarters, likely a cramped loft directly above the forge, is thick. It does not smell of fresh morning air. It smells of sulfur. It smells of stale sweat and old leather. It smells of the charcoal dust that coats every single surface of your existence. You sit up. Your joints protest. The damp cold of the medieval morning seeps into your knees and your lower back, a sharp contrast to the inferno you will face in less than an hour. This is the first reality of your life, the temperature paradox. You live your life suspended between the freezing damp of a drafty, uninsulated wooden shack and the blistering, dehydrating heat of the hearth. There is no middle ground. There is no comfort. You swing your legs over the side of the bed. Your feet touch the floorboards, which are coated in a fine, gritty layer of black dust. It is everywhere. You breathe it in while you sleep. You taste it in your morning gruel. It settles in the creases of your eyes and the lines of your palms. If you were to wash yourself now, scrubbing with a rough cloth and cold water, the water would turn black instantly. But you don't wash. Not yet. There is no point. In minutes, you will be covered again. You dress in the dark, a heavy woolen tunic, itchy and thick, worn over linen undergarments that have turned a permanent shade of gray. Over this you tie a heavy leather apron. This is not a fashion statement. It is a shield. It is stiff, smelling of cured hide and smoke, cracked in places where sparks have flown too many times. This leather is the only thing standing between your soft stomach and a shower of molten iron sparks that fly like angry hornets when the hammer strikes. You descend the ladder into the forge. The workshop is cold, darker than the room above. It is a cave of tools and iron. The silence here is heavy, waiting. In the center of the room stands the hearth, currently a pile of gray, lifeless ash. This is your master, and this is your prisoner. Your first task, as it is every single morning of your life, is to wake the beast. You kneel on the hard-packed dirt floor. The cold earth presses against your knees. You reach for the flint and steel, your fingers stiff and clumsy in the chill. You must strike the spark. You catch it on a piece of chalkcloth, blowing gently, coaxing a tiny orange glow into life. You feed it dried moss, then small twigs, then the charcoal. Charcoal is your currency. It is expensive, laborious to produce, and you consume it by the mountain. You shovel the black, lightweight chunks into the hearth. The dust rises in a cloud, coating your tongue with a metallic tang. You begin to work the bellows. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. This sound is the rhythm of your life. The bellows are heavy, made of wood and leather, and they require a steady, rhythmic pull to force air into the heart of the fire. You're not just building a fire, you are creating an environment hot enough to make iron pliable. You need heat that white hot, heat that makes the air shimmer and warp. As the fire catches, the temperature in the room begins to shift. The damp cold retreats, replaced by a dry, aggressive heat. Within 20 minutes, you are sweating under the wool tunic. Within an hour, the room will be an oven. The sweat runs down your back, soaking the fabric, causing it to cling to your skin. The leather apron becomes a heavy, suffocating weight on your chest. You look around your workspace. Hammers of various weights, 2 pounds, 4 pounds, 8 pounds, rest on the anvil block. Tongs with long handles hang from the wall, looking like the skeletal claws of strange birds. The anvil itself, a massive block of iron mounted on a tree stump, stands silent in the center. This anvil has no give. It has no mercy. Every time you strike it, the shockwave travels up the handle of the hammer, into your wrist, up your elbow, and settles in your shoulder. Years of this vibration have calcified your joints. You are likely only in your late 20s, yet you move with the stiffness of an old man. Your hearing is dull, a constant ringing, tinnitus, masking the subtle sounds of the morning birds outside. The clang, clang, clang of metal on metal has battered your eardrums day after day, year after year, leaving you in a muffled world where people have to shout to be heard by you. The fire is roaring now. The heart of the coals glows, a bright, angry orange, bordering on yellow. The heat is physical. It pushes against your face like a hand. Your skin feels tight, dried out by the constant exposure. Your eyebrows are singed short. Your forearms are a map of tiny white scars, a constellation of burns from flying scale, the flakes of oxidized iron that explode off the metal when you strike it. You pick up a bar of iron with the long tongs. It is cold, gray, and unyielding. You thrust it into the heart of the coals. Now you wait. But this is not a restful wait. You must watch the color. If you pull it out too soon, the iron will crack under your hammer. If you leave it in too long, the carbon will burn out, and the metal will become useless, sparking and crumbling like dry bread. You must wait for the exact shade of lemon yellow. You stare into the fire. The light sears your retinas. Over time, this constant staring into the intense glare will cloud your vision, leading to what we now know as glassblower's cataract or heat cataract. But you don't know that. You only know that your eyes ache at the end of the day, that they feel gritty and red. The iron is ready. You pull it out, glowing, radiating a heat so intense you can feel it through the leather apron. You swing it onto the anvil. You raise the hammer. Clang. The sound shatters the morning silence. The shock runs up your arm. Clang. Sparks fly, stinging your neck. Clang. You are shaping a horseshoe, or perhaps a hinge for a church door, or a tool for a farmer. It doesn't matter what it is. The process is the same. Heat, strike, turn, strike. Heat, strike, turn. The physical exertion is immense. Imagine swinging a 4-pound weight over your head and bringing it down with precision, thousands of times a day. Your right arm is disproportionately muscular, swollen with muscle and scarred tissue, while your left arm, the tong arm, is static, locked in a grip of iron tension, holding the hot metal steady against the blows. This imbalance twists your spine over the years, leaving you with a permanent stoop, one shoulder higher than the other. And the thirst is constant. The heat sucks the moisture from your body faster than you can replace it. You drink weak ale or water from a ceramic jug, but it is never enough. The sweat stings your eyes. The salt dries on your skin. You are an engine of flesh and blood, burning fuel to shape stone and metal, and the cost is paid in the rapid aging of your own body. This is only the first hour. The sun has barely risen. The village is just waking up, but you have already sweated through your clothes, your ears are already ringing, and your muscles are already burning with lactic acid, and you have 14 hours of this left to go today. This is the glamour of the forge stripped away. There is no magic sword here. There is only the heat, the dust, the noise, and the endless rhythmic destruction of your own body for the sake of the village's survival. The sun has now climbed to its highest point in the sky. Outside, the village is bustling with the vibrant, chaotic energy of midday. Merchants are shouting their wares, children are chasing dogs through the mud, and the church bells are tolling the hour. But in here, in your sanctuary of soot, time is measured not by the sun, but by the dwindling pile of charcoal and the aching throb in your right shoulder. The heat in the forge has compounded. It is no longer just the fire. The walls themselves have absorbed the thermal energy of the morning and are now radiating it back at you. The air is stagnant, trapped by the low ceiling. Every breath you take is heavy, sitting in your lungs like a warm stone. The sweat does not drip anymore. It runs in continuous rivulets, soaking your woolen tunic until it is a heavy, sodden weight dragging at your movements. You are dehydrated, a chronic condition of your trade, and a dull headache begins to tighten its band behind your eyes. But the work does not pause for your headache. A shadow falls across the open doorway. It is a customer. Perhaps it is a farmer with a plowshare that has snapped on a hidden rock. Or perhaps it is a traveler leading a horse with a thrown shoe. You hope for the plowshare. Iron does not bleed and iron does not kick. But today luck is not with you. It is the horse. Shoeing a horse in the medieval period is a task of immense physical danger and sensory assault. Yet it is as routine to you as breathing. You must leave the relative safety of the anvil and step out into the slightly cooler air of the overhang where the horse is tied. The animal is nervous. It smells the smoke on you. It smells the predatory scent of burning coal and the sharp tang of hot metal. To a prey animal, you smell like a forest fire. You approach slowly. You cannot rush. Rushing leads to mistakes, and in your line of work, a mistake means a broken bone. And a blacksmith with a broken leg is a blacksmith who starves. There is no sick pay, no insurance. If you cannot stand, you cannot strike. If you cannot strike, you do not eat. You pick up the horse's hoof. It is heavy, resting dead weight in your hand. The animal shifts, testing you. You are bent double, your spine twisted, your face dangerously close to the powerful hind legs of a beast that weighs 1,000 pounds. You clean the hoof with a pick, scraping away the mud and stones. Then comes the fitting. You return to the fire, grabbing the horseshoe with your tongs. It glows a dull red. You walk back to the horse. You press the hot iron against the keratin of the hoof to check the fit. Hiss. A cloud of thick, acrid white smoke billows up instantly. It engulfs you. The smell is distinctive and unforgettable. The scent of burning hair and scorched fingernails, magnified 100 times. It is a thick, oily smell that coats the back of your throat and clings to your clothes for days. You do not cough. You are used to it. You hold your breath instinctively, squinting against the stinging smoke, checking the sear marks on the hoof to see where the shoe needs adjustment. The horse stamps. You must hold firm. Your thigh muscles burn from the crouching. Your grip strength is tested to its limit. If you drop the hoof, the horse might spook. If you drop the hot shoe, it could land on your foot or in the dry straw. This is a moment of high tension, yet it happens in slow motion. It is a dance of patience and brute strength. You return to the anvil. Clang, clang. You adjust the shoe. You return to the horse. You hammer the nails in. Tap, tap, tap. You must be precise. Drive a nail too deep into the quick of the hoof, and you lame the horse. A lamed horse means an angry customer. And an angry customer in a violent age is a danger you cannot afford. When the horse is finally shod and the customer pays you, perhaps in coin, but more likely in barter, a sack of grain or a promise of meat, you are left drained. The adrenaline fades, leaving you shaking. It is time for the midday meal. You do not leave the forge. You cannot let the fire die down completely. It takes too much fuel to rebuild it. So you sit on a bench near the door, hoping for a breeze. You wipe your hands on your apron, but they remain stained with the permanent black grease of your trade. Your lunch is simple: a loaf of dark, dense rye bread and a piece of hard cheese. As you eat, you taste the forge. The grit from your hands transfers to the bread. You crunch down on tiny particles of charcoal and iron dust. Your teeth are worn down not just by age, but by this abrasive diet. You wash it down with small beer, a low-alcohol ale that is safer to drink than the water. It is lukewarm and flat, but it wets your parched throat. You look at your hands as you eat. They are the hands of a giant, swollen and misshapen. The skin is leather, burned so many times that you have lost sensation in your fingertips. You can pick up a hot coal for a second without feeling it. The nails are black and broken. There are cuts that never fully heal because the grime of the forge constantly reinfects them. They are tools, these hands, no longer truly part of a human body, but extensions of the hammer itself. You have an apprentice, a boy of 12, perhaps your son or a neighbor's child. He is sweeping the floor, coughing in the dust. You watch him with a mix of pity and necessity. He is hauling the heavy sacks of charcoal, his thin arms straining. You remember being him. You remember the first burns, the first time you cried from the exhaustion. You do not comfort him. He must harden. If he does not harden, he will not survive this life. You offer him a piece of your cheese in silence. It is the only kindness you can afford. The break is short. It must be. The village needs nails. It needs hinges. It needs the endless, mundane metal objects that hold the medieval world together. The fire is calling. You can feel its heat on the side of your face, even from here. You stand up. Your knees crack audibly. You stretch your back, hearing the vertebrae pop. You take a deep breath of the relatively fresh air near the door, savoring it for a second, before turning back into the gloom. The afternoon stretch lies ahead. This is the hardest part of the day. The energy of the morning is gone. The food sits heavy in your stomach, making you sluggish. The heat is at its peak, and the pile of iron bars in the corner seems to have grown, not shrunk. You pick up the hammer. You pick up the tongs. You step on the pedal of the bellows. Whoosh, whoosh. The rhythm resumes. It is a hypnotic, endless cycle. You are not a hero. You are a machine that turns charcoal into civilization, one strike at a time. And no one, absolutely no one, thanks you for the smoke you inhale. The sun has finally surrendered, slipping below the horizon and taking the daylight with it. The village has grown quiet. The shouts of the market are gone. The church bell has rung for vespers. For most, the workday ended an hour ago. But for you, the work only ends when the metal is cool enough to touch. You are finally done. You have banked the fire, covering the precious coals with ash to keep the heart of the heat alive until morning, because starting a fire from scratch is a luxury of time you do not have. The forge, once a roaring beast, is now sleeping. The heat, however, remains. It hangs in the air, thick and motionless, refusing to leave the stone walls. You sit on a low wooden stool. This moment right here is the most honest moment of your day. The adrenaline that kept you moving through the afternoon slump has evaporated, and in its place comes the pain. It arrives not as a sharp stab, but as a dull, heavy tide. It starts in your feet, flattened and aching from 12 hours of standing on hard-packed earth. It moves up your shins into your knees, which throb with a deep, grinding ache, but it is your ears that suffer the most in the silence. Now that the rhythmic clang, clang, clang of the hammer has stopped, the world should be silent, but it isn't. A high, thin whine, a phantom sound fills your head. It is the song of the forge, etched permanently into your auditory nerves. You try to listen for the wind outside, or the voice of your wife calling from the house, but they sound distant, as if coming from underwater. You realize, with a detached acceptance, that the world is getting quieter every year. You stand up to wash. This is a ritual of futility. You dip a rag into a bucket of cold water. You scrub your face. The water turns black instantly. You scrub your arms. The water turns darker. You can remove the surface layer of soot, the fresh grime of the day, but the shadow remains. The charcoal dust has worked its way into your pores, tattooing your skin with a permanent grayness. It is under your fingernails. It is in the creases of your neck. You are mocked. Even on a feast day in your best tunic, everyone knows what you are. You carry the forge with you. You cough, a dry, hacking sound that rattles your chest. The air in the forge is filled with not just smoke, but metal filings and stone dust. Your lungs are slowly stiffening, coating themselves in the same black layer that covers the floor. You do not know the words silicosis or black lung, but you know the older smiths in the neighboring villages. You know they struggle to breathe when they walk up a hill. You know their chests whistle when they sleep. You know that is your future. You climb the ladder to the loft. The smell of dinner wafts up, a stew of root vegetables, perhaps a bit of salted pork if it was a good week. You are hungry, but you are too tired to eat voraciously. You eat mechanically, your hand shaking slightly as you hold the spoon. This is the smith's tremor, a result of the constant vibration of the hammer impact traveling up your nerves, slowly fraying the connection between intent and movement. You lie down on the straw pallet. The wool blanket feels heavy. Your body is exhausted, desperate for sleep, yet your mind is still racing with the inventory of tomorrow. Do we have enough charcoal? Did the cooling tub crack? Is the anvil sitting level? As you close your eyes, the heat of the fire still glows behind your eyelids. You have survived another day. You have bent the iron to your will. You have shod the horses that carry the knights, and you have forged the hinges that hold the church doors. You are the foundation of the medieval world. But as you drift off into a fitful, coughing sleep, you realize the truth of your trade. The iron is hard, but the life is harder. And tomorrow, before the sun rises, you will do it all again. We leave the suffocating heat of the forge behind us now. We leave the soot and the fire. But history is a place of extremes. If some men were forged in fire, others were consumed by ice. From the cramped, sweating confinement of a medieval workshop, we travel forward in time to a place where there are no walls, only an endless white horizon. A place where the struggle is not against the heat, but against a silence so profound it can drive a man mad. We turn our gaze to a man who sought glory at the end of the world, only to find that the journey itself was the true conqueror. The year is 1912. We have traveled nearly 600 years forward in time and thousands of miles south to the bottom of the world. We are standing on the Antarctic plateau. If the blacksmith's forge was a world of claustrophobic darkness and noise, this world is one of terrifying openness and silence. Here there are no walls. There is no roof. There is only the sky, pale and washed out, stretching down to meet the ice. It is a world of white snow, white clouds, white mist. In this place, depth perception fails. You cannot tell if a ridge is 5 miles away or 5 feet away. You are floating in a void of cold. In the center of this nothingness, 5 men are walking. They are not marching with the crisp cadence of soldiers. They are plodding. They are leaning forward at a 45-degree angle, their bodies rigid, ropes pulled taut over their shoulders. They are man-hauling. There are no dogs here to pull the sledges. The ponies are long gone. There is only human muscle against gravity and friction. Imagine the sensation of the harness. It is a canvas strap across your chest and shoulders, biting into layers of wool and windproof gabardine. Behind you, tethered by a rope, is a sledge weighing several hundred pounds. It is laden with tents, sleeping bags, kerosene, and food. Every step is a negotiation with the ice. You lift a heavy finnesko-booted foot. You place it down. The snow crust breaks with a dry crunch. You shift your weight. You lean. The rope tightens. The sledge resists. It wants to stay frozen to the ground. You push with your thighs. The sledge lurches forward a few feet with a scraping hiss. Crunch, lean, drag, crunch, lean, drag. This is the rhythm of the polar journey. It is not a sprint. It is a slow, grinding attrition. Captain Robert Falcon Scott and his 4 companions, Wilson, Bowers, Oates, and Evans, are engaged in the most monotonous physical struggle in history. The surface of the snow is not smooth. It is covered in sastrugi, waves of ice carved by the wind. They look like a frozen, stormy sea. The sledges crash over these ridges, jerking the harness, snapping your neck back, bruising your ribs. Every hour is a battle to keep the sledge upright. Every mile feels like 10. The silence here is heavy. It presses against your ears. There are no birds, no insects, no rustling leaves. The only sounds are the wind, the scrape of the runners, and the heavy, rhythmic breathing of the men around you. They do not talk. Talking wastes energy. Talking lets the cold air into your lungs. So you walk in your own private bubble of thought, staring at the back of the man in front of you, focusing on his footprints. The temperature is 30 degrees below zero, but it is the wind that steals the heat. It finds the smallest gap in your clothing, a loose button, a gap between glove and sleeve, and inserts a needle of ice. Your breath freezes instantly on your face. Icicles form on your beard, growing heavy, fusing your mustache to your collar. You have to break the ice away just to open your mouth to drink. And the light is relentless. Even through dark goggles, the glare of the sun reflecting off millions of ice crystals burns the eyes. It is a flat, shadowless light that hides the texture of the ground, so you stumble blindly over bumps you cannot see. You walk for hours. There is no scenery to mark your progress. The horizon never changes. It is like walking on a treadmill. You check the sledge meter, a wheel that counts the distance, and realize you have only gone 2 miles since the last break. The disappointment is crushing, but you do not stop. You cannot stop. To stop for too long is to freeze. You are simply a machine of locomotion, fueled by pemmican and determination, moving a heavy wooden box across a frozen desert that does not care if you live or die. The sun has dipped lower in the sky, though it will not set. It merely circles the horizon, a pale, watchful eye that refuses to blink. But for you, the day is done. The leader, Captain Scott, raises a hand. The signal is given. Halt. The word is not spoken, but felt. The momentum of the march dies. You stop leaning against the harness. The sledge behind you slides to a stop with a final, resentful scrape against the ice. For a moment, you just stand there, swaying slightly. Your body, confused by the sudden lack of resistance, feels light, almost floating, yet simultaneously crushed by the weight of 10 hours of hauling. The silence rushes back in, filling the space where the rhythm of your footsteps used to be. But you cannot rest. Not yet. Stopping is dangerous. The moment you stop moving, your body's heat production crashes. The sweat trapped in your layers of wool and gabardine, sweat generated by the intense exertion of hauling, begins to cool. If you stand still for too long, that moisture will freeze against your skin. You are in a race against your own temperature. You fumble with the harness. Your fingers are clumsy, swollen sausages inside thick fur mitts. You have to take the mitts off to undo the buckles. This is a moment of dread. You pull your hand out of the warmth of the fur. The air hits your skin like a physical blow, a burning sensation that is instantly replaced by a numbness that spreads from your fingertips down to your palms. You have seconds of dexterity before your hands become useless claws. You work frantically. The metal buckles are frosted over, they stick to your skin. You jerk the harness free and shove your hands back into the mitts, beating them against your thighs to force the blood back into the extremities. Now begins the architecture of survival. You and your companions move with a practiced, silent choreography. There is no need for orders. Every man knows his role. You unlash the tent from the sledge. The canvas is stiff, frozen into the shape of the roll. It does not unfold like fabric. It cracks open like a thin sheet of wood. You drag the bamboo poles out. They are light, cold, and brittle sounding. You connect the sections. Click, click. You spread the tent out on the snow. The wind catches it instantly, snapping the green fabric, trying to tear it from your grip. You must fight the canvas, wrestling it to the ground. You pile heavy blocks of snow onto the skirting, the wide flap at the bottom of the tent, to anchor it. You shovel snow with the side of your boot, stamping it down, sealing the edges to prevent the drift from blowing inside. Finally, the apex is raised. The pyramid of green gabardine stands against the white void. It is tiny, only 7 feet across. But it is the only sanctuary you have on this entire continent. You crawl inside. The transition is jarring. You move from a world of infinite white brightness and screaming wind into a small, dim, triangular space of soft green light. The wind outside is instantly muffled to a dull, rhythmic thrumming against the canvas walls. It is the difference between standing in a hurricane and standing inside a drum. The floor of the tent is covered with a rubberized ground cloth. You crawl in on your hands and knees. The first rule of the tent is the brush. You must brush yourself off. Every flake of snow that clings to your boots or your tunic will melt once the temperature rises, and that water will soak into your sleeping bag. And in Antarctica, things that get wet do not dry. They freeze. So you beat the snow off your legs, you scrape the ice from your beard. You are meticulous. Once inside, the hierarchy of the march dissolves into the intimacy of the domestic routine. You sit cross-legged on the floor cloth. The space is cramped. 5 grown men wearing bulky polar clothing are packed shoulder to shoulder in a space meant for 3. You are an intricate puzzle of limbs. You know the smell of your companions as well as you know your own. It is the smell of unwashed wool, of stale sweat, of wet leather, and of tobacco. It is a dense, organic scent that fills the tent, replacing the sterile ozone smell of the ice. The focus now shifts to the center of the circle, the Primus stove. This brass device is the heart of your existence. Without it, you die. It is that simple. Lieutenant Bowers, the birdie of the group, usually tends to it. He places the metal box in the center. He fills the small cup with methylated spirits to prime it. He strikes a match. Boom. A yellow flare lights up the faces of the men. Shadows dance on the green canvas walls. You watch the flame intently. It is the only color you have seen all day that isn't white or gray. As the spirits burn down, heating the burner head, Bowers begins to pump the pressure. Hiss, roar. The stove catches. The roar is loud, a comforting industrial sound that drowns out the wind. The flame turns blue and hot. A metal pot is placed on top. Blocks of snow are dropped in. You watch them melt. It takes an agonizingly long time. The phase change from ice at 30 degrees to water at boiling point requires an immense amount of energy. You sit, shivering, waiting for the water to heat. As the temperature in the tent rises, perhaps climbing from 30 degrees below zero to just freezing, you begin to experience the thaw. This is not pleasant. As your blood warms up and begins to circulate back into your frozen fingers and toes, the nerves wake up screaming. It is a throbbing, burning pain known as the hot aches. You see your companions grimacing, rocking back and forth, clutching their hands. No one complains. You just endure it. It is the tax you pay for warmth. Then comes the pemmican. Pemmican is a dense brick of dried beef and fat, ground into a powder. It looks like potting soil. Bowers breaks chunks of it into the boiling water. He adds broken biscuits. The mixture thickens into a stew called hoosh. The smell of the hoosh fills the tent. To a modern nose, it might smell greasy and animalistic. To you, starving and exhausted, it is the most intoxicating aroma in the world. It smells of life. It smells of safety. Your mouth waters painfully. You hold out your mug. The ladle pours the thick brown sludge into your cup. You wrap your hands around the metal. The heat transfers into your palms, a blissful, stinging warmth. You bring the cup to your lips. You sip. It is scalding hot. It burns your tongue, but you don't care. The fat coats your throat. The salt hits your system like a jolt of electricity. You can feel the heat traveling down your esophagus, landing in your stomach and radiating outward. For the first time in 12 hours, your core stops shivering. You eat slowly, scraping every last molecule of grease from the sides of the mug with a spoon. You would lick the cup if you could. The meal finishes too soon. The pot is scraped clean. The stove is turned off. Silence. The roar of the Primus dies, and the wind outside rushes back into your consciousness. The temperature begins to drop immediately. The warmth was borrowed, and the Antarctic is claiming it back. Now, you must prepare for the night. You unroll your sleeping bag. It is made of reindeer fur. When you started this journey months ago, the fur was soft and the bag was dry. Now it is a rigid coffin of ice. The moisture from your body, your breath, your sweat has frozen inside the layers of the bag during the day. You have to force your way into it. You push your legs into the stiff, frozen tube. It takes 10 minutes of struggling just to get inside. The fur is cold and damp against your skin. You have to use your own body heat to thaw the bag out every single night before you can sleep. You lie there, shivering violently, waiting for the ice in the fur to turn to damp slush. You are lying shoulder to shoulder with your companions. There is no privacy. You can hear their stomachs growling. You can hear the scratch of a pencil as Captain Scott writes in his diary by the light of a small blubber lamp. Great God, this is an awful place, he writes. You stare up at the apex of the tent where the green canvas meets. The wind buffets the sides, shaking frost down onto your face. You pull the drawstring of the sleeping bag tight, leaving only a tiny hole for your nose and mouth to breathe. You are a cocoon of exhaustion. You close your eyes. You are safe for another 8 hours. But you know that when you wake up, the walls will be coated in white hoarfrost from your own breath, and the boots you placed under your head to keep them from freezing will be hard as stone. And outside, the White Plateau is waiting. It is January 16th, 1912. You have been walking for months. You have marched over 800 miles across the most hostile surface on Earth. The routine we described, the waking, the hauling, the freezing, the sleeping, has been repeated day after day, grinding your body down until you are little more than a husk of frostbitten skin and exhausted muscle. But today the atmosphere has changed. You are close. By your calculations, the pole is just a few miles ahead. The adrenaline of the finish line begins to pump through your veins, a final reserve of energy that pushes back the pain in your legs. You are Bowers. You are walking ahead of the others, your eyes scanning the horizon for the target. You are looking for a break in the monotony, a place where the measurements of latitude and longitude converge. You expect nothing but empty snow. You expect to plant the Union Jack in a virgin wilderness, to claim this empty point for your king and for yourself. But then your eyes catch something. At first you think it is a sastrugi, a shadow cast by a ridge of ice. You blink. Your eyes are raw from snow blindness, weeping a sticky fluid that freezes on your lashes. You rub them with a fur mitt. You look again. It is still there. It is a black speck, a sharp geometric imperfection in the perfect white curve of the world. Nature does not make straight vertical lines here. Nature does not make black flakes that do not move. You stop. The rope behind you goes slack. The sledge slides to a halt. Behind you, Captain Scott looks up, sensing the pause. He follows your gaze. There is no sound. No dramatic music swells. There is only the wind hissing over the ice. But in that silence, a devastating realization crashes down upon you with the weight of a glacier. It is a flag. You do not run towards it. You cannot run. You simply resume the march. But the spirit has evaporated from the group. The air has gone out of the balloon. You walk towards the speck with a sense of dread, a funeral procession of 5 men approaching the grave of their ambition. As you draw closer, the details resolve. It is a black flag tied to a sledge runner. Nearby there are the remains of a camp, dog tracks, the chaotic, playful prints of dogs, creatures you had to leave behind weeks ago, mar the pristine surface. The Norwegians were here. Roald Amundsen was here. The date is January 17th. You have officially arrived at the South Pole, but you are 34 days late. The scene at the pole is not one of grandeur, it is a scene of abandonment. You find a small tent left by the Norwegians. It is a tent called Polheim, the home of the pole. You stand before it. It is a simple structure, yet it represents the absolute destruction of your dreams. You and your men crawl inside seeking shelter in the home of your rival. Inside, the air is still. You find things left behind, some equipment, a sextant, and letters. There is a letter addressed to the King of Norway, and a note for Captain Scott. Amundsen, in a gesture that is both practical and unintentionally cruel, asks you to deliver the letter to the king if he, Amundsen, should perish on the return journey. Imagine the psychological weight of this moment. You are standing at the end of the world, exhausted beyond the limits of human endurance, suffering from scurvy and starvation, and you are being asked to be the postman for the man who beat you. Scott sits on a wooden crate inside the Norwegian tent. He takes out his diary. His hand shakes, not just from the cold, but from a profound, crushing disappointment. He writes the words that will echo through history. The pole. Yes, but under very different circumstances from those expected. Great God. This is an awful place and terrible enough for us to have labored to it without the reward of priority. This is the climax of the video, but it is an anti-climax. It is the definition of a boring tragedy. There is no battle. There is no explosion. There is only a tent, a piece of paper, and the realization that the return journey, 800 miles back to the coast, lies ahead. You step back out into the wind. The Union Jack is planted, but it flaps listlessly next to the Norwegian marker. You take a photograph. The photo shows 5 men standing in the snow. They look like ghosts. Their posture is slumped. They are not looking at the camera. They are looking at the ground or staring into the middle distance. They know, perhaps even then, that they are looking at their own mortality. The long walk is over. Now begins the long retreat. You turn your back on the pole. The wind, which had been in your face for weeks, is now at your back, but it offers no comfort. The temperature is dropping. The season is turning. The Antarctic winter is coming to close the door you have just opened. We leave them there. 5 tiny figures receding into the white mist, walking into a future we already know, but which they must live through, step by agonizing step. From the blinding white void of the Antarctic, we travel now to a different kind of obscurity. We leave the cold, open spaces for the quiet, dust-filled air of a forgotten library. We leave the physical struggle of the body for the intellectual struggle of the mind. We are going to open a book that no one can read. We have walked through the fire of the medieval forge. We have shivered on the ice of the Antarctic plateau. Now we come to a place of perfect climate control. We are entering the Benecke Rare Book and Manuscript Library in New Haven, Connecticut. Here the air is filtered, the temperature is constant, and the light is dim. It is a cathedral of paper and ink where history sleeps in grey boxes, waiting to be remembered. We are here to look at one specific object. It is catalogued simply as MS-408. To the naked eye, it does not look like a dangerous or bewildering object. It is small, about the size of a modern paperback, though thicker. Its cover is blank, limp vellum, calfskin that has been scraped and treated until it is smooth and durable. It is the color of old ivory, stained by centuries of handling. It has no title, no author's name embossed on the spine, no date. Imagine you are sitting at a long wooden table in the reading room. You are wearing white cotton gloves to protect the object from the oils of your skin. You open the cover. The vellum is stiff. It resists you slightly, wanting to remain closed. As the page turns, you hear that specific dry crackle, the sound of animal skin that has been dry for 600 years. The smell rises up to meet you. It is not the vanilla scent of old paper. It is funkier, earthier. It smells of protein, of old leather, of iron gall ink that has bitten into the surface of the page. You look at the first page, and here the silence of the library deepens into a silence of the mind. You are looking at text. It is clearly handwriting. It flows from left to right. It has distinct paragraphs. There are loops, ascenders, and descenders. It has the rhythm and the cadence of language. It looks like it should be Italian, or perhaps Latin, or a dialect of High German. Your brain, trained from childhood to recognize patterns, immediately tries to latch onto it. You try to read the first word. Fasces? No, that's not an F. 8 a.m. No, that's not a number. You try the next word. Ol, see, you stop. You realize, with a slow creeping sensation of unease, that you cannot read a single syllable. This is the Voynich manuscript. It contains over 240 pages of text, written in a sophisticated flowing script that has been dubbed Voynichese. There are over 170,000 distinct characters. The handwriting is confident and smooth. There are no crossouts. There are no hesitation marks. The scribe did not pause to think. They wrote this strange language as fluently as you write your own name. And yet, for over 600 years, not a single person Not the best code breakers of World War II, not the most brilliant linguists, not the most powerful supercomputers, has managed to read a single sentence. It is a locked door for which the key has been lost, or perhaps a door that was painted on a wall to look like an opening. But it is not just the text that is hypnotic, it is the illustrations. Turn the page. You are now looking at a drawing of a plant. It is painted in rich, flat colors, greens, browns, a startlingly vivid blue. It looks like a botanical diagram you might find in a medieval herbal, a guide to medicinal plants. You see the roots, the jagged leaves, the flowering bud. You lean in closer. You try to identify it. Is it a sunflower? A fern? A lily? You trace the leaves with your eyes. They are wrong. The roots end in strange claw-like tubers. The leaves spiral in a way that defies the Fibonacci sequence found in nature. The flower looks like two different species grafted together. You turn the page again. Another plant. This one has leaves that look like jagged saws and a root system that looks like a nest of snakes. You turn another page, and another. There are 113 drawings of plants in this section, and the unsettling truth is this. Almost none of them exist on Earth. They are an impossible garden. They are familiar enough to feel real, yet alien enough to be disturbing. It is as if someone traveled to a parallel dimension, sketched the flora, and returned to the 15th century to document it. The sensory experience of looking at these pages is one of jamais vu, the opposite of déjà vu. It is the feeling of looking at something that should be familiar, but is completely unrecognized. Let your eyes drift over the text again. The script is beautiful. It is loopy and round. There are characters that look like the number 9, characters that look like a gallows or a bench, characters that look like tiny ribbons. The ink varies in darkness, showing where the scribe dipped their quill. You can see the rhythm of their hand. Dip, right, right, right. Dip, right, right, right. It is monotonous work. Imagine the scribe. They sat in a room, perhaps a monastery cell, perhaps a tower in northern Italy, illuminated by candlelight. They mixed their ink, oak galls, iron salts, gum arabic. They sharpened their quill, and then for months, perhaps years, they generated this stream of nonsense. Or was it nonsense? Why would someone do this? Vellum was expensive. It required the skin of a calf. A book this size represents an entire herd of animals. It represents thousands of hours of labor. To create a hoax of this magnitude using such expensive materials seems economically impossible for the time. Yet to believe it is a real language is to accept that a complex culture existed, developed a writing system, wrote a 200-page encyclopedia, and then vanished without leaving a trace anywhere else in the written record of humanity. Turn the page to the balneological section. Here the strangeness amplifies. You see drawings of green water, pools, tubs, or perhaps cisterns, and in these pools are tiny, naked women. They are drawn with little detail, almost like cartoons. They are bathing, sliding down elaborate systems of tubes and pipes that connect the pools. Some of the women hold stars, some wear crowns. They look serene, floating in this green liquid, surrounded by the indecipherable text. What is this? Is it a guide to spa treatments? Is it an allegorical representation of the soul? Is it a recipe for birth control? Or is it an alchemical diagram showing the birth of elements? The water in the drawings is painted a flat, opaque green. It looks murky. The women look pale. The pipes look like intestines. It is a biological machine, churning and flowing, but its function is totally obscured. You feel a heaviness in your eyelids as you stare at the loops of the letters. The repetition is lulling. Gallows character loop loop 9. Gallows character loop loop 9. It repeats, but with subtle variations. It has the structure of a language. Entropy analysis proves that. The words repeat with the same frequency as words in English or Latin. It follows Zipf's law, a mathematical rule that governs all human languages. This means it is not random gibberish. A person mashing keys on a keyboard creates random noise. This text has structure. It has grammar. It has syntax. It breathes like a language. but it refuses to speak. The silence of the Beinecke library feels heavier now. You are holding the intellectual equivalent of a black hole. It absorbs inquiry and gives nothing back. It is a mirror that reflects only the theories of the person looking at it. To the botanist, it is a plant book. To the astronomer, it is a star chart. To the mystic, it is a spell book. To the historian, it is a puzzle. But to you right now, it is simply a collection of beautiful, silent shapes. Let us close the cover for a moment. Let the vellum settle back into place. Let the dust motes settle. We have seen the object. Now we must look at the long line of people who have been driven to the brink of madness trying to read it. To understand the silence of the manuscript, we must leave the climate-controlled safety of the 21st century and travel back to a time when magic and science were the same thing. We are in Prague. The year is roughly 1600. The city is a labyrinth of dark alleys and golden spires, shrouded in mist rising from the Vltava River. We are in the court of Emperor Rudolf II. Rudolf is not a normal king. He is a melancholic recluse, a man obsessed with the occult, alchemy, and the bizarre. He ignores politics to stare at stars. He collects dwarfs, giants, and roots that look like men. And into this court walks a man named John Dee. Dee is a mathematician, an astronomer, and a magician. He claims to talk to angels. He carries with him a book, our book. He tells the emperor that it is the work of the great Roger Bacon, the 13th century philosopher who was rumored to possess universal knowledge. Dee whispers that this book contains the secrets of nature, perhaps the elixir of life, perhaps the formula for turning lead into gold. The emperor, desperate for meaning in a chaotic world, buys it. He pays 600 gold ducats. This is a fortune, enough to buy a small castle or a title. Imagine that transaction. The heavy bag of gold-changing hands. The book being placed into the emperor's library. Rudolf likely spent nights staring at these same green women and blue plants, his eyes straining in the candlelight, convinced that the answer to his depression lay within these loops and swirls. He died never reading a word of it. From there the book begins a slow, dusty journey into obscurity. It is passed to an alchemist named Georg Barisch. Barisch is a tragic figure in our story. He is a man who knows he is holding a treasure but lacks the key to open it. We have letters from him written in a tone of desperate confusion. He calls the book a sphinx that is taking up space uselessly in his library. He begs for help. He sends copies of the script to the greatest scholar of the age, Athanasius Kircher. Kircher is a Jesuit in Rome, a man who claims to have deciphered the hieroglyphs of Egypt. He hadn't, but he thought he had. Kircher is arrogant. He usually replies to everyone, but to Barisch, he sends silence. Even Kircher, the man who thought he knew everything, could not make sense of the facies and the old. The book is eventually sent to Rome, to a Jesuit university, and there it vanishes. For 250 years the manuscript sleeps. It sits in a chest. Wars rage across Europe. Empires rise and fall. The Enlightenment happens. The Industrial Revolution begins. Steam trains replace horses, gas lamps replace candles. And through it all, MS-408 sits in the dark, its vellum pages pressing typically together, guarding their secrets. We jump forward to 1912. We are in Italy, at the Villa Mondragone. It is a grand but fading palace near Rome, owned by the Jesuits. They are short on cash. They need to sell some of their old library to pay for repairs. They decide to do it quietly, in secret, to avoid government attention. Enter Wilfred Voynich. Voynich is a Polish revolutionary turned rare book dealer. He is a man with a sharp eye and a sharper instinct for value. He is invited to the villa. He opens a chest. Inside, among dusty theological treatises and prayer books, he finds it. He picks it up. He touches the vellum. He sees the drawings of the impossible plants. He sees the naked women in the green tubes. He looks at the text. He knows instantly that he is holding something anomalous. He buys the chest. He takes the book to London, and he spends the rest of his life trying to read it. Voynich was a showman. He sent photostats of the pages to everyone. He sent them to botanists who said the plants were hybrids. He sent them to astronomers who said the star charts were meaningless. And finally the book met its greatest adversary, William Friedman. Friedman is the father of modern American cryptology. He is the man who would go on to lead the team that broke the Japanese Purple Code in World War II. He is a genius of patterns. He looks at the Voynich manuscript. He gathers a team of scholars, the Voynich Study Group. They meet in their spare time after working on real war codes during the day. They apply the new science of statistics. They turn the handwritten loops into computer punch cards. They analyze the frequency of every character. They work for decades. And the result? Friedman, at the end of his life, concludes that it is nothing, or rather, not a code. He suggests it might be an a priori constructed language, an invented language that attempts to categorize the universe philosophically. But even he, the man who defeated empires with his mind, could not translate a single sentence. He famously said, "The Voynich manuscript woke up the dormant skepticism in me. The book defeated him. It defeated the codebreakers of the NSA. It defeated the linguistic software of the 21st century. And so we are left with the final possibility, the most boring and perhaps the most likely possibility of all. We have looked at the history of the book, and we have looked at the men who failed to read it. But we have not yet looked at the most disturbing possibility of all. It is the theory that haunts the quiet corners of the Beinecke Library. It is the theory that William Friedman, the man who broke the codes of empires, whispered at the end of his life. What if there is no secret? What if the Voynich manuscript is a mirror that reflects our own desperate need for meaning in a chaotic universe? What if we are staring into the abyss, and the abyss is simply gibberish? Let us consider the hoax theory. But let us not dismiss it as a simple prank. If this is a hoax, it is a masterpiece of deception that required a level of commitment bordering on insanity. Imagine the creator. Let us place him in the early 15th century. Perhaps he is a student who failed his university exams. Perhaps he is a monk who lost his faith. He sees the wealthy collectors of the time, men like Emperor Rudolph, who are desperate for ancient wisdom. He sees a market for the unknown. So he buys the vellum, he prepares the ink, and he sits down to write. But he does not just scribble. To create a text that looks like language but is not language requires a mental state of profound dissociation. Try it yourself. Try to invent a fake alphabet and write a page of text. Within 3 lines, your brain will revolt. You will start repeating patterns too, obviously. You will get bored, you will make mistakes. The author of the Voynich manuscript did not get bored. He wrote for hundreds of pages. He maintained a consistent internal logic that has fooled statistical algorithms in the 21st century. If this is a hoax, the author entered a trance state, a condition known as glossolalia, or speaking in tongues, but translated to the hand, hypergraphia. Imagine him sitting in his cold room, rocking back and forth, the quill moving across the skin of the calf, channeling a language that exists only in the firing of his own synapses. Loop, arch, gallows, 9. Loop, arch, gallows, 9. He is not writing meaning, he is writing rhythm. He is weaving a spell not of magic but of pure structure. He is trapping the future in a net of beautiful nothingness. Turn the page to the most baffling section of the manuscript, the biological section. Here the pretense of a botanical guide falls away completely. We are looking at pages that defy all medieval artistic conventions. We see complex tube-like structures that resemble organic plumbing. They twist and turn, connecting strange bulbous cisterns filled with that same murky green fluid. And floating in these tubes are the nymphs. These are the tiny naked women we glimpsed earlier. But look closer at them. They are not drawn with the eroticism of Renaissance art, nor with the shame of medieval religious art. They are drawn clinically. They have pot bellies. They have wide hips. They look like biological components of a larger machine. In one drawing, a woman holds a ring. In another, a woman seems to be merging with the tube itself. What are we looking at? Some historians suggest this is a treatise on balneology, the science of therapeutic bathing. They argue that the tubes represent the plumbing of Roman baths. But no Roman bath ever looked like this. These look like the insides of a living organism. Is it a microscope view? Some claim that Roger Bacon had a primitive telescope or microscope. Are we looking at cells? Are we looking at the fallopian tubes? Are we looking at the process of conception, drawn by a man who had no knowledge of anatomy, but an overactive imagination? The green fluid connects everything. It flows from page to page. It implies a circulation, a system. But a system of what? Souls, humors, time itself? The more you look, the more the image disintegrates. You start to see faces in the roots of the plants. You start to see maps in the layout of the text. This is pareidolia, the psychological phenomenon where the brain forces a pattern onto random data. It is why we see faces in clouds. The Voynich manuscript is the ultimate cloud. It is a Rorschach test for history. The botanist sees plants, the alchemist sees reactions, the linguist sees grammar. And you? What do you see? Do you see the work of a madman, a genius, a prankster? Or do you see something else? There is a theory that the book is a steganographic text. This means the real message is hidden inside the nonsense. You have to place a grill, a piece of card with holes cut in it, over the page to read the true letters. But where is the grill? It is lost. Without the key, the door remains forever locked. And perhaps that is why we love it. In a world where everything is known, where satellite maps show us every inch of the globe, where Google Translate can decipher any language in seconds, the Voynich manuscript is a sanctuary of the unknown. It is a reminder that we are not as smart as we think we are. It is a humble pie made of vellum. It refuses to yield. It sits in its gray box in the Beinecke library, silent and smug. It has outlived its creator. It has outlived the emperor who bought it. It has outlived the codebreakers who fought it. It will outlive us. You can feel the weight of the book in your hands one last time. You close the cover. The faces and the owl and the gallows characters disappear back into the dark. You take off your white cotton gloves. You place the book back into its protective housing. The silence of the library returns, but it is different now. It is not an empty silence. It is a silence full of whispers. You walk away from the table, but a part of your mind stays behind, trapped in the impossible garden, swimming with the nymphs in the green water, forever trying to decode a message that might not exist. We leave the manuscript there. We leave the quiet, intellectual frustration of the library. We are going to travel now to a place that is the opposite of a mystery. We are going to a place where everything was scripted, everything was public, and everything was suffocatingly, excruciatingly known. We are going to the most famous palace in the world, a place of gold, crystal, and mirrors, a place that looks like paradise but felt like a prison. We are going to the court of the Sun King. Welcome to Versailles. Welcome to the golden cage. We have arrived at the pinnacle of Western civilization. We are in France. The year is 1682. We are at the Palace of Versailles. To the outside world, this is paradise. It is the center of the universe, the home of the Sun King, Louis XIV. It is a place of marble, gold, crystal, and silk. But you know the truth. You live here, and you know that this palace is not a home. It is a machine. It is a glittering, gilded factory, designed to manufacture one thing: the absolute power of the king, fueled by the absolute submission of the nobility. You are a duke. You have a title that goes back centuries. You own vast lands in the provinces, but you are not on your lands. You are here, trapped in the golden cage. Because if you are not here, you do not exist. To be away from Versailles is to be invisible to the king, and to be invisible is to be destitute. Your day begins not with the sun, but with the cold. You wake up in your apartment. The word apartment suggests luxury. The reality is different. Your room is located in the attic of the north wing. It is small, cramped, and poorly ventilated. The ceiling slopes so sharply that you cannot stand up straight in the corners. The walls are thin. You can hear your neighbor, a count, snoring through the plaster. You can hear the servants moving in the secret passages behind the wainscoting. It is freezing. Versailles is built on a swamp. The dampness rises from the ground and seeps into the stone. The fireplaces are massive, but they are inefficient. They suck the heat up the chimney, leaving the room filled with smoke but devoid of warmth. You wake up seeing your own breath in the air. The water in your wash basin has a thin crust of ice on it. This is the first sensation of the life of the elite, a bone-deep chill that even velvet cannot banish. You summon your valet. He enters, shivering. It is time for the toilette. Hygiene in the 17th century is a complex, dangerous affair. You do not bathe. To immerse the body in water is considered a health risk, a way to open the pores to the bad air or miasma that causes disease. Instead, you practice the dry wash. Your valet rubs your skin with a linen cloth soaked in spirits or vinegar. It stings. It removes the surface dirt, but it does nothing for the sweat of yesterday. You cover the smell. This is the most essential part of the ritual. You apply powders, pastes, and perfumes. Heavy, animalistic scents, musk, civet, ambergris. You dab them behind your ears, on your wrists, on your chest. You are building a mask of scent, but you're not alone in this. Everyone in the palace, all 4,000 courtiers plus the 6,000 servants, is doing the same thing. The result is the specific, suffocating olfactory signature of Versailles. It is a smell that hits you the moment you step into the hallway. It is a thick, cloying mixture of strong perfume, unwashed bodies, wood smoke, stale food, and something worse. Plumbing is non-existent here. There are few latrines. In the corners of stairwells, behind heavy curtains, in the beautifully manicured gardens, people relieve themselves. The palace, for all its visual glory, smells like a decorated sewer. We focus on the gold leaf to distract the eye, but the nose cannot be fooled. You breathe this air every minute of every day. Now you must dress. This is not a matter of comfort, it is a matter of armor. You put on the stockings tight and white, the breeches, the shirt with the lace cuffs, lace that costs more than a peasant earns in a lifetime. The waistcoat, the coat heavy with gold embroidery, the fabric is stiff, it restricts your movement, it weighs you down, and finally the wig, the peruke. It is a massive tower of human or horsehair, curled and powdered white. It is heavy, it is hot, it itches. Underneath it, your own head is shaved to prevent lice, but the lice find a way into the wig anyway. You carry a small ivory rod, a scratching stick, to relieve the itch without disturbing the curls. You place this heavy structure on your head. It frames your face, but it cuts off your peripheral vision. You are now encased. You are a statue of velvet and hair. You leave your room. You step out into the hallway. It is crowded. Versailles is never empty. It is a city squeezed into a building. You navigate the crush of bodies. Servants carrying chamber pots, guards standing at attention, ladies with wide pannier skirts that take up the entire width of the corridor. You must bow, you must nod, you must smile. You are heading to the center of the palace, to the king's bedroom. It is time for the lever du roi, the rising of the king. This is the most important event of the day. It is 8:30 a.m. The king has just woken up, and you, along with 100 other high-ranking nobles, are going to watch him get dressed. Think about the absurdity of this. In any other context, a man getting dressed is a private, mundane act. Here it is a sacrament. It is a religious ceremony. You enter the bullseye antechamber. The crowd is dense. The air is stiflingly hot here, heated by hundreds of bodies. You wait. You watch the door. You scan the room. Who is here? Who is missing? Why is the Duke of Orléans frowning? Did the king smile at the Marquis de Dangeau yesterday? This is the currency of Versailles, observation. You are a spy in a room full of spies. If you are not vigilant, you will lose your status. A slight from the king, a glance not returned, a word unspoken can ruin you. You are terrified of being ignored. The doors open. The grande entrée begins. You shuffle into the king's bedchamber. It is a space of overwhelming red and gold. The bed is on a raised platform, like an altar, separated from the room by a golden balustrade. The king is there. He has already been shaved and has put on his wig. He never appears without it. Now begins the choreography of the shirt. The Grand Chamberlain takes the king's nightshirt off. The king stands naked from the waist up for a fleeting second. Then a fresh shirt is brought. But who hands it to him? This is the question that defines your entire existence. It cannot just be handed to him. It must pass through the hierarchy. A valet hands it to the Grand Chamberlain. The Grand Chamberlain offers it to the Duke of Orleans, the king's brother. If the king's son were here, he would take precedence. If a foreign prince were here, the hierarchy would shift. You watch this transfer of the shirt with breathless intensity. It is a political maneuver performed with linen. Finally, the shirt is slipped over the royal head. The king is dressed. You stand there. You have been standing for 2 hours. Your feet ache in your high-heeled shoes. Your heavy coat is making you sweat. The smell of the room is dizzying. You are hungry. You haven't eaten breakfast, because to eat before the king is seen as rude. You are thirsty. You are bored beyond belief. But you smile. You look rapt. You act as if watching a man pull up his breeches is the most fascinating spectacle on earth. Because if you frown, or if you yawn, someone will see. And if someone sees, the king will know. And if the king knows, you might be sent back to your drafty castle in the provinces, where there is fresh air and silence, but where you will die of irrelevance. So you stand. You endure the etiquette. The word itself comes from the French for ticket or label. Little cards that used to be given to courtiers to tell them where to walk on the grass. Now it is a web of invisible rules that controls your every muscle twitch. Don't cross your legs. Don't knock on a door. You must scratch it with your fingernail. Knocking is for commoners. Don't touch your nose. Don't turn your back on the portrait of the king even if the king isn't in the room. The king finishes dressing. He turns to the room. He looks over the crowd. His gaze sweeps across the faces. It stops momentarily on you. He nods. A fraction of an inch. Your heart soars. The adrenaline rushes through your exhausted, sweating body. You have been seen. You are safe for another day. The king says, "We are going to mass." The crowd parts. The procession begins. You fall into line according to your rank. The long, meaningless day has only just begun. The sun has set over the gardens of Versailles. The view of the Grand Canal has vanished into the darkness, but inside a new sun has risen. It is the time of l'appartement, the evening reception held 3 times a week in the king has staterooms. To the historian looking back, this scene is a painting of supreme elegance. To you, the courtier living it, it is a marathon of physical endurance performed in a sauna. The first thing that hits you is the heat. Versailles is illuminated by over 20,000 candles tonight. These are not smoky tallow dips used by the peasantry. These are pure white beeswax, expensive and bright, but 20,000 flames generate an immense amount of thermal energy. The hall of mirrors, with its windows closed against the night air, becomes a furnace. The temperature rises steadily. You are wearing layers of velvet, silk, and wool. Your wig acts as a thermal insulator for your head. The powder on your face begins to mix with the sweat, turning into a paste that itches maddeningly. But you cannot scratch. You cannot wipe your brow. You must maintain the bel air, the facade of effortless cool. You move into the gaming room. Gambling is not a hobby here. It is a duty. The king likes to see large sums of money changing hands. It proves that his nobility is wealthy, even if they are secretly bankrupt, and that they are careless with their fortune, which keeps them dependent on him. You approach the table. The game tonight is reverses, or perhaps the high-stakes card game, Basset. The table is covered in green velvet. The silence around it is heavy. This is not the rowdy gambling of a tavern. This is a silent, deadly serious exchange of wealth. You sit if you are lucky enough to be playing. If not, you stand. Let us talk about standing. If there is one physical sensation that defines life at Versailles, it is the burning ache in the soles of the feet. Chairs are forbidden. Armchairs are reserved exclusively for the king and queen. Chairs with backs are for the fille de France, the king's children. For everyone else, there is only the floor, unless you are a duchess. If you are a duchess, you have the right to the tabouret, a simple backless padded stool. This wooden stool is the most coveted object in France. People kill for it. People spend their entire fortunes bribing officials just to obtain the patent that allows their wife to sit on this uncomfortable square of velvet for 1 hour a day. But you are not a duchess. You are a duke, a man. So you stand. You have been standing since 8:30 a.m. It is now 8:01 p.m. Your calves are rock hard with tension. The blood pools in your ankles, causing them to swell against the silk stockings. Varicose veins are a common ailment among the nobility, a badge of honor that proves you have spent your life waiting for the king. You shift your weight imperceptibly from left foot to right foot. You lock your knees. You sway slightly. You see an elderly marquis near the wall tremble with exhaustion, his face gray under the rouge. He does not sit. To sit on the floor would be a degradation. To leave would be treason. So he stands until he collapses. You watch the cards turn. Ace, king, 7. You lose 1,000 livres in a single hand. That is the price of a farm in the provinces. You watch the gold coins slide across the green velvet toward the bank. You do not flinch. You smile. You make a witty remark about luck. Inside, your stomach churns. You are borrowing money from moneylenders at 20% interest just to pay for the coat you are wearing and the losses you are sustaining. You are burning your family's legacy to keep warm in the king's glow. The king walks by. He does not play. He watches. He observes who is betting high, who is frightened, who is confident. He is the puppeteer. He nods at you. The loss of the money is instantly worth it. You have been noticed. The clock strikes 10. The gaming ends. The torture shifts forms. It is time for the grand couvert, the royal supper. If you thought the lever was absurd, the supper is a theatrical production where the audience is starving and the actor is eating cold meat. The king enters the dining salon. He sits alone at a massive table set with gold plate. You and the hundreds of other courtiers crowd into the room. You stand in a semicircle pressed against the walls, like spectators at a zoo. The food arrives. It has come from the Grande Commune, the kitchens located hundreds of yards away. It has been carried through draughty corridors, up staircases, and through crowded halls. By the time it reaches the king, the roasted pheasant is lukewarm. The soup has a skin on it. The sauce has congealed. But the ritual must be observed. You watch the officer of the mouth taste the food for poison. He takes 2 slices of bread, dips them in the sauce, and eats them. He drinks a sip of the wine. The king waits. The room waits. The silence is absolute. You can hear the king chewing. You can hear the clink of his fork on the gold plate. You are starving. You haven't eaten a proper meal all day because you have been chasing the king from room to room. The smell of the roasted meats wafts over the crowd. It is torture. Your stomach growls. You cough to cover the sound. The king eats with an appetite that is legendary. He eats 4 plates of soup, a whole pheasant, a partridge, a plate of salad, 2 slices of ham, mutton with garlic, a dish of pastry, and then fruit and hard-boiled eggs. He eats with his fingers, as is the custom for the time, stripping the meat from the bone with elegance. You watch every bite. You analyze his mood based on his appetite. Is he eating the mutton? He must be feeling strong. He refused the pastry. Is his gout acting up? The king calls for a drink. "A drink for the king," shouts the cupbearer. The cry is echoed down the line. A golden salver is brought. The wine is poured. The king drinks. The room exhales. This continues for 45 minutes. You are packed shoulder to shoulder with men who haven't bathed, wearing perfumes that have turned sour in the heat. The air is thick with carbon dioxide. People faint. It is common. A lady in the second row swoons, her corset too tight, the heat too much. She slides to the floor in a rustle of silk. 2 guards quietly drag her out. The king does not look up. He is peeling a pear. You look at the faces around you. They are masks. White powder, red cheeks, beauty patches made of black silk glued to the skin to hide smallpox scars. Underneath the masks, eyes are darting, calculating, fearful. Everyone hates this. The king himself is bored by it. He prefers to eat alone with his mistresses. But he performs the ritual because he knows it keeps you here. It keeps you tired. It keeps you poor. It keeps you watching him instead of plotting against him. Finally, the king wipes his mouth with a wet napkin. He stands. The chair is pulled back. "To the cabinet," he announces. "The supper is over, but the day is not. There is still the coucher, the going-to-bed ceremony. You must watch him take off the shirt you watched him put on 14 hours ago. You follow the procession back through the hall of mirrors. The candles are burning low now, dripping wax onto the parquet floor. The shadows are longer. The reflection in the mirrors is distorted. You are a ghost in a machine of gold. You are exhausted beyond words. Your feet are bleeding inside your shoes. Your head throbs from the weight of the wig. You have lost a fortune at cards. You are hungry. But as you walk past a mirror, you catch a glimpse of yourself. The candlelight catches the diamonds on your coat. You look magnificent. You look powerful. You look like a god. And you realize with a sinking heart that you will do it all again tomorrow. It is now past midnight. The Grand Couvert is over. The gaming tables are empty. The music in the apartments has stopped. But for you, the day has one final act. The most intimate and therefore the most politically charged act of all. The coucher du roi, the putting to bed of the king. You have followed the monarch back to his bedchamber. The crowd has thinned. Only the most privileged are allowed here. You are one of the happy few. But your happiness is buried under 15 hours of standing on swollen feet. Your eyes are burning from the candle smoke. Your wig feels like a lead helmet. Yet, you straighten your back. You adjust your ruffles. You prepare for the final performance. The king stands by the balustrade of his bed. He murmurs a prayer. The room freezes. Even the atheists bow their heads. It is not just a prayer to God. It is a signal that the state is resting. Now comes the ceremony of the candlestick. This is the moment everyone has been waiting for. The Grand Chamberlain takes the heavy silver candlestick from the bedside table. It is a simple object, a tool for light. But in Versailles, it is a scepter of favor. Who will hold it while the king gets undressed? The king glances around the room. He looks past the dukes. He looks past the counts. His eyes settle on a specific man, perhaps a marshal of France, perhaps a foreign ambassador, perhaps you. If he chooses you, your social stock skyrockets instantly. It is a sign that you are in the inner circle. It means your debts might be forgiven. It means your son might get that regiment commission. It means you matter. The chamberlain hands you the candlestick. You take it. It is heavy, warm from the flame. Your hand trembles slightly, not from fear, but from the sheer weight of the eyes burning into your back. The other courtiers are watching you with a mixture of naked envy and calculation. You hold the light. You are the beacon. For 5 minutes, you are the second most important person in France. By the light of your candle, the king begins to disrobe. The valets remove the coat. The blue ribbon of the Order of the Holy Spirit is taken off. The waistcoat is unbuttoned. The shirt, the same shirt you watched him put on an eternity ago, is removed. You try not to stare, yet you must not look away. It is a delicate balance of reverence and voyeurism. The king puts on his nightshirt. He sits on the edge of the bed. The valets remove his breeches. They remove his stockings. Finally, the wig. The massive powdered structure is lifted from the royal head. For the first time all day, you see the human being underneath. Without the wig, he looks smaller. He looks older. He looks like a man in his 60s who has spent his day being a living statue. He puts on a nightcap. The transformation is complete. The Sun King has set. He is now just Louis. He climbs into the high bed. The curtains are drawn, but not fully. "Good night, monsieur," he says. It is the dismissal. You hand the candlestick back to the chamberlain. The moment is over. You bow. You back out of the room, never turning your back on the bed until you reach the door. You step out into the hall of mirrors. The contrast is shocking. The hall is dark now. The thousands of candles have been snuffed out to save wax. The moonlight streams in through the 17 great windows, casting blue, ghostly rectangles on the parquet floor. The air is suddenly cold. The heat of the day has dissipated, leaving the chill of the swamp to reclaim the palace. You walk toward your apartment. The adrenaline fades, leaving you with a crushing exhaustion. Your body screams. Your feet are numb. Your head pounds. You reach your attic room. You open the door. It is dark. Your valet has fallen asleep on a stool in the corner. You do not wake him. You fumble with your own buttons. You pull off the heavy coat. letting it drop to the floor. You pull off the wig and the relief is physical, a wave of pleasure that almost makes you weep. You scratch your scalp. You sit on the edge of your narrow bed. The silk sheets are cold. You can hear the wind howling around the slate roof tiles above you. You can smell the lingering scent of the latrines from the courtyard below. You are one of the most powerful men in Europe. You live in the most beautiful building on earth. You have spent the day in the presence of God's representative, and you are miserable. You lie down. You pull the heavy wool blanket up to your chin. You stare at the cracks in the plaster ceiling, dimly lit by the dying embers in your fireplace. You close your eyes. Tomorrow, at 8:30 a.m., the bell will ring. The wig will go back on. The mask will be reapplied. The performance will begin again. But for now, for a few short hours, you are free. We have traveled far tonight. We have stood in the heat of the medieval forge, feeling the weight of the hammer and the sting of the charcoal dust. We have walked the endless white silence of the Antarctic plateau, dragging the sledge step by agonizing step. We have sat in the quiet of the library, staring at the indecipherable loops of the Voynich manuscript, wandering through an impossible garden. And we have stood in the gilded corridors of Versailles, trapped in a cage of velvet and light. History is often remembered as a series of dates and battles. But as we have seen, the reality of the past was defined by sensation, by the temperature of the air, by the ache in the muscles, by the texture of the clothes, by the relentless rhythmic demands of survival and status. The blacksmith forged the iron. The explorer mapped the ice. The scribe inked the vellum. The courtier bowed to the king. All of them were bound by the constraints of their time, locked in the loop of their daily struggles. But you are not there. Take a moment to feel where you are right now. You are not sleeping on a pallet of straw in a soot-filled loft. You are not zipped into a frozen reindeer skin bag on a glacier. You are not trapped in a drafty attic in a palace that smells of sewage. You are here, in the comfort of the present. Feel the surface beneath you. It is soft, it is warm. There is no wind howling through the walls. There is no forge fire demanding to be fed. There is no king waiting for you to hand him a shirt. The past is done. The struggles we have witnessed tonight are over. The fires have cooled. The ice has melted. The voices have faded into the silence of the archives. You can let them go. Let the image of the forge fade into the dark. Let the white horizon of the Antarctic dissolve. Let the green pages of the manuscript close. Let the candles of Versailles flicker and die. There is nothing left for you to do. No history to write. No iron to strike. No distance to walk. The only journey left for you now is the one into sleep. A journey not of struggle, but of release. Close your eyes. Let the heavy curtain of time fall. Good night.